We're going over System Pticha, Preface to the Wisdom of Kabbalah by Bala Sulam, Chapter 2, 5 Discernments in the Masach screen. Session 15, Inverse Relationship, Lights and Vessels. Why the difference?
Why the difference? Baha Salam, number 23. Yet we must still find out why it is that the Kli, the vessel, of Malhut kingdom, Behina Dalet, phase 4, is missing from the Masach, the screen. It lacks the light of Keter, crown, and when the Kli vessel of Tiferet, beauty, is missing, it lacks the light of Chokmah, wisdom, etc. It would seem that it should have been to the contrary. And when the Kli vessel of Malhut kingdom, Behina Dalet, phase 4, is absent in the Masach, the screen, only the light of Malhut kingdom would be missing in the level, and it would have the 4 lights, Tahab, crown, wisdom, understanding, and Tiferet, beauty. Also, in the absence of 2 Kalim vessels, Behina Gimel, phase 3, and Behina Dalet, phase 4, it would lack the lights of Tiferet, beauty, and Malhut kingdom. And the level would have the 3 lights, Kahab, crown, wisdom, understanding, etc. Explanation, number 23. Yet we must still find out why it is that when the vessel of kingdom, phase 4, is missing from the screen, it lacks the light of crown. And when the vessel beauty is missing, it lacks the light of wisdom, etc. It would seem that it should have been to the contrary, that when the vessel of kingdom, phase 4, is absent in the screen, only the light of kingdom would be missing in the level, and it would have the 4 lights, crown, wisdom, understanding, and beauty. Also, in the absence of the 2 vessels, phase 3 and phase 4, it would lack the lights of beauty and kingdom, and the level would have the 3 lights, crown, wisdom, understanding, etc.
Discrepancy of lights and vessels. Explanation, item 23. Yet we must still find out, why is it that when the vessel of kingdom, phase 4, is missing from the screen, it lacks the light of crown? When the vessel of beauty is missing, it lacks the light of wisdom, etc. So we've gone over this before, how this is our screen, this is the coarseness and the hardness of the screen, and depending on the level of the coarseness and hardness of the screen that we're using, it will create a certain height of reflected light. So if we're using the vessel of Malchut, kingdom, which is phase 4, then what that will do is it will give us a height of reflected light all the way to Keter, crown, which is the root phase. And if we only have the coarseness of Tiferet, beauty, which is phase 3, then it will only go up to the height of Chokmah, wisdom, which is phase 1. And if we only have the vessel of Bina, understanding, phase 2, then it can only reach the height of Bina, understanding, in phase 2 in the reflected light. And if we only have the coarseness of Chokmah, which is wisdom, phase 1, then we can only reach up to the height of Tiferet, beauty, phase 3. And finally, if we only have the root coarseness of Keter, which is the crown, root phase, we can only reach up to the height of Malchut, which is kingdom, phase 4. So the idea is that this is the Rosh, the head, which does the Cheshbon, which is the calculation. And then below we have the Masach, which is the screen, which is normally called Ped Rosh, which is the mouth of the head. All right, let's move on. Expected relationship. It would seem that it should have been to the contrary, that when the vessel of kingdom, phase 4, is absent in the screen, only the light of kingdom would be missing in the level, and it would have the 4 lights, crown, wisdom, understanding, and beauty. Also, in the absence of 2 vessels, phase 3 and phase 4, it would lack the lights of beauty and kingdom, and the level would have been 3 lights, crown, wisdom, and understanding, etc. So this is the way people would expect it to be, that it's not like this, but this is what they would expect it to be, that if I had the coarseness of Malchut kingdom, phase 4, then I would have all the height, just like before. But if I only had the vessel of Tiferet, beauty, they would expect that I would have all the vessels just like the coarseness and would be lacking the phase 4 vessel. The reflected light would actually start from above and wouldn't actually start from the screen and above. That is, it wouldn't go from Malchut to Chokmah, but rather it would go from Tiferet to Keter. So not from kingdom to wisdom, but rather from beauty to crown. And the same with, if you had only the coarseness of Bina, which is understanding, which is phase 2, they would think that what you'd be missing, just like here you're missing the coarseness of phase 3 and phase 4, so you would miss the vessel of phase 3 and phase 4 of the reflected light. And the same they would expect, where if you only have the vessels of Keter and Chochmah in your coarseness in the screen, you would only have the vessels of Keter and Chochmah in your reflected light. And finally, if you only had the root coarseness of Keter crown, you would only have the vessel of Keter crown. And of course, it's not like this. And now we're going to learn why it's not like this. Order of vessels.
Order of vessels, Baal HaSalam, item 24. The answer is that there is always an inverse relation between lights and vessels. In the Kalim, vessels, the higher ones grow first in the Partsuf, face. First Keter, crown, then the Kli, vessel, of Chokmah, wisdom, etc. And the Kli, vessel of Malhut, kingdom, grows last. This is why we name the Kalim vessels by the order of Keter, Chokmah, Bina, Tiferet, Malhut, crown, wisdom, understanding, beauty, and kingdom, from above downwards, as this is the order of their growth. Explanation, item 24. The answer is that there is always an inverse relation between lights and vessels. In the vessels, the higher ones grow first in the face, first crown, then the vessel of wisdom, etc., and the vessel of kingdom grows last. This is why we name the vessels by the order crown, wisdom, understanding, beauty, and kingdom, from above downwards, from pure to coarse, as this is the order of their growth.
Order of vessels. Explanation. Item 24. The answer is that there is always an inverse relation between lights and vessels. In the vessels, the higher ones grow first in the face, first crown, then the vessel of wisdom, etc. And the vessel of kingdom grows last. This is why we name the vessels by the order crown, wisdom, understanding, beauty, and kingdom, from above downwards, from pure to coarse, as this is the order of their growth. So what we can see here is with the vessels, we go from pure to coarse. So we start with Keter, crown, which is phase 0, the root phase. And this is called a Chana preparation. And when we normally talk about the Keter, we normally refer it either as the goal, or we're referring it to the still vegetative and animal that we see in reality. And then we have Chochmah, which is wisdom, phase 1. And this is normally called Enoshut, which is humanity, dealing with all the people that don't have a point in the heart. Then you have Bina, understanding, phase 2. And it's called the Chevra Ruchanit. This is the spiritual society that their trademark is altruism without self-benefit. Then you've got Tiferet, beauty, phase 3, which this is normally called the Kvutza, which is the group, which deals with cleaning concepts. And then finally, Malchut, kingdom, phase 4. This is called Yechides Gula, and it's called the individual, because the idea is that in this phase, you have the biggest ego. So the idea is that the egoism goes from the purest ego, which is in the still vegetative and animal degree, going all the way to the individual, which is the coarsest degree, the biggest ego.
Now it says vessel. Is it talking about that the reflected light is the vessel?
So yeah, the reflected light is the vessel as well. Basically, when we're talking about vessels and lights, vessels is a certain group, you could say, a certain separation, a certain distinction or discernment. And then the light is the way you are responding to that kind of group. So for example, if you're dealing with the preparation phase and you're dealing with the still vegetative and animal, your relationship to that will be the light. So for example, if you have the light of relaxation, and we'll go over the lights later, when you have the lights of relaxation, for example, then you'll be relaxed when you're around trees or animals or the seaside. And so the idea is that depending on the vessel you're dealing with, which is dealing with the sort of the segregation, the separation of our reality into different groups, we'll have different relationships to each of those groups. And that's what we're going to talk about, is that relationship between the vessels and the lights. So the vessels is a certain separation that I'm doing. I'm focusing on a certain part of my reality, and it goes into these 5 parts, right, of preparation, humanity, spiritual society, group, and individual. And then the lights is how do I respond to that group.
The lights are the response?
Yeah. The lights is how you feel towards it. Like we say that lights are pleasure. So it's pleasure towards one of these groups, one of these degrees. And of course there's sub-degrees, but these are the main high levels of separation. So we know when you talk about it that humanity are people without the point in the heart. Spiritual society are normally people that have a passive point in the heart. They want the meaning of life. The group are people that have an active point in the heart. They actually want to advance, not just know the meaning of life, but actually change their life. And then you've got the individual, which is just doing total focus on how they are going to cross the barrier. So they're not just cleaning concepts, where you could clean concepts for a long time and not actually cross the barrier. The individual combines the cleaning concepts, but with the goal of actually crossing the barrier. And that's why it's the coarsest, it's the most targeted. So the purest is the less targeted, and the coarsest is the most targeted, even though Keter normally represents the goal. So you can already see a bit of that inverse relationship, that on one hand, Keter crown represents the goal, but on the other hand, it also represents the still vegetative and animal that don't have a conscious goal. And as you go down the list of the vessels, the goal becomes more and more conscious. When the individual phase, it's totally conscious. He knows or she knows why they want to cross the barrier, and they're actually in the, finishing that process of actually crossing the barrier. We'll move on. Order of lights.
Order of lights, Baal HaSalam. It is to the contrary with the lights. In the lights, the lower lights are the first to enter the Partsuf face. First enters Nefesh, relaxation, which is the light of Malkut, kingdom, and Ruach, modulation, which is the light of Zerampin, small face, etc. And the light of Pticha, singularity, is the last to enter. This is why we name the lights by the order of Nar and High, relaxation, modulation, protection, expression, singularity, from below upwards, as this is the order by which they enter, from below upwards. Explanation. It is to the contrary with the lights. In the lights, the lower lights are the first to enter the face. First enters relaxation, which is the light of kingdom, then modulation, which is the light of small face, etc. And the light of singularity is the last to enter. This is why we name the lights by the order relaxation, modulation, protection, expression, singularity, from below upwards, from coarse to pure, as this is the order by which they enter, from below upwards.
Order of lights. Explanation. It is to the contrary with the lights. In the lights, the lower lights are the first to enter the face. First enters relaxation, which is the light of kingdom, then modulation, which is the light of small face, etc. And the light of singularity is the last to enter. This is why we name the lights by the order relaxation, modulation, protection, expression, singularity, from below upwards, from coarse to pure, as this is the order by which they enter, from below upwards. So here the idea is that the lights go from coarse to pure. So we start with Nefesh, which relaxation, which is phase 4, which means it's the Or Malchut, the light of kingdom. Then we have Ruach, which is modulation, phase 3, which is Or Tiferet, or Zerampin, which is the light of beauty, small face. Then we have Neshama, protection, phase 2, or Binah, the light of understanding. Then we've got Chaya, expression, phase 1, which is called Or Chochmah, the light of wisdom. And finally, Yichida, singularity, which is the root phase, which is also called Or Keter, the light of crown. So the emotional responses of these lights is as following. Relaxation is when you feel above the situation you're dealing with. So normally what happens is we're experiencing a certain situation in reality, and we get sort of locked into it. If we're able to go above it, if we're able to feel ourselves above the situation that's happening in front of us, that's called the light of relaxation, right? And that's the state. You get into that state of light after the barrier as a state. Remember, we talked about the difference between a state and an action. An action is where you can, for example, be, having a great experience from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. That's an action. A state is when basically your day is in a certain state. Like when someone says, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, right? Like that's like a state. So the idea is when we're saying a state of relaxation, it means that all the experiences that you're going out throughout your day, you're in a state of detachment, even though you're in the situation. So you have this relaxation. It's like it doesn't bother you. You're sort of like, wow, I feel above it. Then you've got the next degree, which is called modulation. Modulation is when you're actually in the situation, but you can handle now the modulation of the situation. So you can handle it going up and getting more tension and less tension. So you're not detached like in relaxation. You're in the situation, you can handle the modulation of the emotional state that's happening. Then you have the next degree, which is the light of protection. Protection is you're in the situation, you're experiencing the tension and the emotional ups and downs, but you're protected from it. So unlike relaxation where you're above it, in protection you're in it but still protected, right? So it requires more power, because to detach from something requires less power than to actually invest yourself into something but still be protected from it going on and off. Right? So the difference between modulation and protection is that modulation you can deal with highs and lows, protection you can deal with like it going from extremes of on and off. Then we've got expression. Expression is when now we actually start to have, it's like we're not in a defense mode, now we're in an offense mode. Now we can actually manipulate the situation. We can actually have control of the situation. We're moving things. We're feeling that strong sense of self, of control and of power. And then finally, we have the light of singularity. This is when I'm even above the manipulation itself, and therefore I can manipulate without me actually feeling all the movement of the manipulation. So when you, for example, you're in expression, then you're feeling the movement of the manipulation. So when you're manipulating, you're going through with it. You're moving with it. In singularity, you can manipulate as much as you want and you feel absolutely like tension-free. So even though you're in the situation, you're manipulating it, you feel this oneness with the system, and that's singularity.
What's the difference in relationship between the lights in the Rosh and the lights in the Goof?
So the lights in the Rosh, which is the head, those are the calculation. And the lights in the Guf, in the body, are what you actually feel. So when, for example, in future sessions, we can actually go over the phases of, primordial man, which will be next week. And then what we'll be talking about is the actual phases that you get to experience after the barrier. And every time you experience a face, you experience it from the body's perspective. You don't actually experience the head. But once you've experienced the body, then you understand that there was a calculation that was before it. So you always experience what's in the body, right? But you sort of know that it's a result of a previous calculation.
So you would not have any sense of the coarseness that's creating the vessels at all in the Rosh?
No, the Rosh is, you only feel the Rosh after, you never feel the Rosh, you could say. You feel the body. And then you sort of have the precursor of the Rosh of the head. And
so the body's the perception and the Rosh is the calculation.
Exactly, and that's why we say that there's no attainment in the head. Because the idea is that the attainment is actually in the body, and then you sort of realize that there was a head before. Just like when you're looking at a building, you understand that someone built the building, even though you didn't get to sort of experience it and see it being built. Let's move on. Relaxation and modulation.
Relaxation and modulation. Allah salam. Thus, when only one kli, vessel, is grown in the parsuf, face, which is necessarily the highest kli, vessel, keter, crown, the light of yahida, singularity ascribed to that kli, vessel, does not enter the parsuf face, but only the lowest light, the light of nefesh, relaxation. Thus, the light of nefesh, relaxation, clothes in the kli, vessel of keter, crown. And when the two kalim vessels grow in the parsuf face, which are the highest two, keter, crown, and hakma, wisdom, the light of ruach, modulation, enter it as well. At that time, the light of nefesh, relaxation, descends from the kli vessel of keter, crown, to the kli vessel of hakma, wisdom, and the light of ruach, modulation, clothes in the kli vessel of keter, crown. Explanation. Thus, when only one vessel is grown in the face, which is necessarily the highest, purest vessel, crown, the light of singularity ascribed to that vessel does not enter the face, but only the lowest, coarsest light, the light of relaxation. Thus the light of relaxation clothes in the vessel of crown. And when two vessels grow in the face, which are the highest, purest two, crown and wisdom, the light of modulation enters it as well. At that time, the light of relaxation descends from the vessel of crown to the vessel of wisdom, and the light of modulation clothes in the vessel of crown.
Relaxation. Explanation. Thus, when only one vessel has grown in the face, which is necessarily the highest, purest vessel, crown, the light of singularity ascribed to that vessel does not enter the face, but only the lowest, coarsest light, the light of relaxation. Thus, the light of relaxation clothes in the vessel or crown. Right? So the beginning, when the lights are actually entering the face, we always have this situation of keter, crown, which what we said is we always have the goal. And then we have the light of nefesh, which is relaxation, that matches it. So even though nefesh, relaxation, is actually the light of kingdom, what is actually entering the keter, crown is not that singularity, but rather the coarsest light, which is the relaxation. So you always got this inverse where you have the goal, and if you have the goal, the minimum feeling you'll have if you have the goal is that you're feeling above situations. So if someone's in turmoil, they've lost the goal. And if they're not in turmoil, then they can have the goal. So if someone says, I have the goal, but they're being manipulated in their life, then it means they don't have the goal. When you have the goal, either in potential or in actuality, you feel like you're in control. You feel like you might not be in control of the situation, but you feel a sense of, okay, I'm making this happening. It's happening because I want it to happen. I might not know why I want it to happen, but it's not happening because of external forces. This is where it becomes the rule of there's none else besides him, which means there's none else besides my internal power, since the Creator is inside of me. And that means that in this state of relaxation, I'm ascribing everything that happens as a result of me. That is, there's no other force outside of me that's actually causing me any kind of pain or frustration. It's always my internal state is being manifested externally, and that's what I'm experiencing. So in the state of relaxation, you're always in an active state and not in a reactive state.
So you're saying that in the relaxation and nefesh, it is a active state rather than reactive. In other words, you're in control of it by being active, right? You're the cause.
Yeah, you're in control by being the cause. That is, you might not actually see any change in reality, but you understand that it's a result of you and not that you're actually responding to external forces. Basically, in the state of relaxation, there's no free choice to anybody in the world. Because giving someone free choice, you're saying that they can decide if to cause you harm or good. And the idea is that in the state of relaxation, where you feel that you are the creator, then you understand that everything you're experiencing is a result of you. And there's no actual someone with free choice who decides if they want to hurt you or make you feel better.
So it's sort of like centering of the self, taking complete responsibility.
Exactly. And that's why you can see that the relaxation is actually ascribed to the individual phase. Let's move on. Modulation. Explanation. And when two vessels grow in the face, which are the highest, purest two, crown and wisdom, the light of modulation enters it as well. At that time, the light of relaxation descends from the vessel of crown to the vessel of wisdom, and the light of modulation closes in the vessel of crown. So what happens here is now we've got two vessels. We've got Keter, crown, and we've also got Chachma, which is wisdom. Right? So we've got root phase and phase one. And then what happens is we've got a new light coming in, which is Ruach, which is modulation. And then what we have is Nefesh, relaxation, goes down to the vessel of Chachma, which is wisdom. But notice how, even though it's not in the text directly, now there's two Nefesh relaxation. There's a Nefesh relaxation that we had beforehand in Keter, and now we've got a copy of it, of the Nefesh of relaxation, now in the vessel of Chachma, which is wisdom. And the idea is that every time you get a new light, the light that was previously in it, which is lower, gets upgraded. So what you can see here, that there is a difference between this relaxation and this relaxation. This is modulation of relaxation, and this is relaxation of relaxation. So this is Ruach de Nefesh, and this is Nefesh de Nefesh. While with the Ruach, since it's the first time that this light has entered this, this space, it's Nefesh de Ruach. It's relaxation of modulation. So the idea is that we're dealing with a scale. So when we're talking about relaxation, modulation, you're like, well, is the relaxation I feel when I cross the bear the same relaxation I feel at end of correction? No. It'll have different intensities, but it's still called relaxation. So think of it like a scale of numbers, right? So the idea is that relaxation is, let's say, a lower number, and modulation is a higher number. So depending on what sort of major number you're dealing with, so for example, in the world of Adam Kadmon, primordial man, which is the set of faces that we deal with when we cross the barrier, we're dealing there, all the different manipulations of the faces are basically dealing with the light of relaxation. So even when we talk about in the face, oh, it's having modulation, or it's having expression, or it's having singularity, they're all a subset of relaxation. And then, for example, when that's from basically 1.1 to 1.4 after the barrier, when we reach 2.1 to 2.4 after the barrier, then we're actually dealing now with the light of modulation, and all the different phases that we go through from 2.1 to 2.4 after the barrier, we're dealing with a subset of modulation. And then when we enter Atzilut, which is the world of emanation, which we reach 3.1 to 3.4, then we're dealing with the light of protection. And all the different phases that we're dealing with from 3.1 to 3.4 after the barrier, we're dealing with subset of that protection. And then when we reach end of correction, then what we're dealing with, we're dealing now with the light of expression, right? And then when we reach the eyes not seen, then we're dealing with the light of singularity, and all the different faces that we experience there are all subsets of that light of singularity.
Sakai, are the vessels activated by the light coming in, or is the light brought in, attracted to the vessels after it is formed? Like you have Keter and then Hakma, the wisdom. Why is the light, is it pulled down after the vessel has appeared, or is it activating the vessel?
The vessel is activated and then the light is pulled down. So the pulling force is always in the vessel. That's why we say that the light's always in complete rest. So the vessels do all the work, all the activation and deactivation is in the vessel side. The result is that the lights are attracted to the vessel. So as we activate the vessels, the lights come in accordingly.
Zakai?
Yes.
Hi. I have a question. Can we say that in the vessel of the crown now we have much more alignment that we had before, just with the nefesh light, just with the relaxation of the stage before? Now we have two lights, the modulation and the relaxation in the crown vessel.
Yeah, we have more power. We have
more power, more alignment. We can do more.
Exactly. So the idea is you can see how when the modulation comes in the face, it upgrades the relaxation as well. So it's not like they're separate, right? They're sort of like, it's like if you have 100 milliliters and now you have a liter, you still got 100 milliliters, right? So
yeah.
The idea is to see them as intensities and not as totally separate things. So as you add the intensity, you get the power to handle new degrees.
Okay.
Let's move on. So this is a quote to explain, even though why Pticha doesn't talk about it, that the light's duplicated. I want to show the source of where this is coming from, because the idea is to remember that Pticha is actually it's like it's a preface. So it means it's a compilation, it's a summary of all the different phases that we go through from before the barrier until end of correction. So the idea is that there are so much more details that even in these sessions we won't be covering, but we're going to try and bring sometimes some things outside of Pticha to sort of expand and point on important parts. So this is a quote of Bala Sulam, and they called it Duplication of Lights. So the quote goes as follows. Each tachton, lower, that travels through the Elyon, upper, leaves its shorish root there. Thus, any or light that comes to the keter, crown, is but the nefesh, relaxation, of that or light. For example, if nefesh, relaxation, comes to kli de keter, vessel of crown, it is merely nefesh de nefesh, relaxation of relaxation. If ruach, modulation, comes to keter, crown, it is merely nefesh de ruach, relaxation of modulation. The same applies to nefesh de neshama, relaxation of protection, and so on. And this is from Talmud Esesfirot, Part 4, Chapter 6, in a light, Item 30, by Bala Sulam. So the reason why I brought this extra piece of information, because the idea is that we've got to remember that in spirituality, which is basically in our perception, we're layered. That means that things don't move. So unlike in reality, when I move I move a bottle from one table to the other, and it's no longer in the first table. In states, they add on top of each other. So that means that once I've experienced a certain state, the state I'm going to experience afterwards is layered on top of my previous state. Now, I might not always feel my state that I've already gone through, but those states are there, and they add and they sort of build the intensity levels. So it's not like you're just getting to a point, it's like that's why you can't just jump to end of correction. Because end of correction includes all the states that you've gone through before. And that's why you can't just get like a pay. It's not like, I'll do some effort and then I'll get $1 million. The effort itself is the result. So every state you add along the way, that becomes your state. So if you want to reach end of correction, you have to go through all the phases, and you can't just jump to it, because the result of that state is containing all the previous states. So the idea is that when a light is traversing from one vessel to another, it's not moving, it's copying, it's enhancing, it's adding, and it's never subtracting. And this is a very important point in Kabbalah, because we'll see all different things where the lights go up and they go in, and you could think that sort of, oh, now I have the lights, and then afterwards you'd be like, well, I've lost all my lights. It's like, no, you haven't lost all your lights. You've lost maybe the sensation of the light, and that's what we normally talk about in Kabbalah. We talk about the sensation. However, even though we talk about the sensation, it doesn't mean that your previous sensations have been lost. Rather, your new sensation is built on those previous sensations, even though those previous sensations might be sort of not be visible to your consciousness, but they're layered in your subconscious.
So the last slide, Yechida, will be Nefesh de Yechida?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll see it in the slides. Protection and expression.
Protection and expression. Baal HaSulam. Similarly, when a third Kli vessel grows in the Partsuf face, the Kli vessel of Bina, understanding, the light of Neshama, protection, enters it. At that time, the light of Nefesh, relaxation, descends from the Kli vessel of Chokmah, wisdom, into the Kli vessel of Bina, understanding, the light of Rosh, modulation, to the Kli vessel of Chokmah, wisdom, and the light of Neshama, protection, clothes in the Kli vessel of Keter, crown. And when a fourth Kli vessel grows in the Partsuf face, the Kli vessel of Tiferet, beauty, the light of Haya, expression, enters the Partsuf face. At that time, the light of Nefesh, relaxation, descends from the Kli vessel of Bina, understanding, to the Kli vessel of Tiferet, beauty, the light of Rosh, modulation, to the Kli vessel of Bina, understanding, and the light of Neshama, protection, to the Kli vessel of Chokmah, wisdom, and the light of Haya, expression, to the Kli vessel of Keter, crown. Explanation. Similarly, when a third vessel grows in the face, the vessel of understanding, the light of protection enters it. At that time, the light of relaxation descends from the vessel of wisdom into the vessel of understanding, the light of modulation to the vessel of wisdom, and the light of protection clothes in the vessel of crown. And when a fourth vessel grows in the face, the vessel of beauty, the light of expression enters the face. At that time, the light of relaxation descends from the vessel of understanding to the vessel of beauty, the light of modulation to the vessel of understanding, the light of protection to the vessel of wisdom, and the light of expression to the vessel of crown.
Protection. Explanation. Similarly, when a third vessel grows in the face, the vessel of understanding, the light of protection, enters it. At that time, the light of relaxation descends from the vessel of wisdom into the vessel of understanding, the light of modulation to the vessel of wisdom, and the light of protection close in the vessel of crown. First of all, you can notice how it says when the third vessel grows in the face. So you can see how it is the vessels that come in first, and then they pull in the lights accordingly. So what we've got now is the new light of Neshama, protection, coming in, because we've now got the vessel of Bina, understanding. And now Ruach, modulation, is now copied into Chochmah, wisdom. And Nefesh is now copied into Bina, understanding. So here we've got Nefesh de Nefesh, the relaxation of relaxation. Here we have Ruach de Nefesh, modulation of relaxation. Here we have Nefesh de Ruach, relaxation of modulation. And in the Keter crown vessel, we now have Neshama of Nefesh, which means protection of relaxation. We have Ruach de Ruach, modulation of modulation. And Nefesh de Neshama, which is relaxation of protection. So you can see how every time new light comes in, the previous lights start to duplicate into the lower vessels.
What do you think about the lights? Like, here we got Nefesh de Neshama, right? On the top, purest light at this moment. What about like Ruach de Neshama and Neshama de Neshama and the other ones that are not shown here?
So they haven't come in yet. So the idea is that when we're talking about the subdegree, for example, this is now Ruach de Nefesh, which is modulation of relaxation. What it means is that the relaxation that's here isn't the same relaxation which is here. This relaxation is upgraded because of the modulation.
Well, I guess you could say then what happens in the last phase where it's Nefesh de Yechida, well, what about Ruach de Yechida and Neshama de Yechida?
So basically what happens is when, in Adam Kanmon, when the vessels are entering the face, which is called, so you've got the calculation, which is called Histaklut Aleph, which is the first observation, you could say. And then when it goes into the body, it's called Hitpashtut Aleph, which is the first expansion. And that will be what we'll see here, where the highest sort of state you have is where Yechida is only in Keter Crown and not in Malchut Kingdom. So how can then Yechida come to the Malchut Kingdom? That will happen with Histaklut Bet, which is where you'll have a mating by striking on the screen when it's lowered to the tabor of the navel in the body. And then what will happen is as the lights go out, it will build sub-vessels. And by building those sub-vessels, then when the light comes back in, when it's finished that process, then you will have a situation where you'll have expression and modulation and singularity also in the vessel of Malchut Kingdom.
Can you describe again what Histaklut Aleph?
So Histaklut Aleph is like, Histaklut is like looking. It's like an observation, right? So the observation is the mating by striking. So you've got two observations. You've got the first observation and the second observation. The first observation is when the screen is at the mouth degree, the pedal rosh, and that's where it's doing the calculation, basically the rosh, the head. And then you have Histaklut Bet, where you're having a mating by striking, but that's already when the body is filled with lights. So now the screen has descended from pedal rosh, which is the mouth of the head, to the tabul of the guf, which is the navel of the body. And because it's gone down, then you have Histaklut Bet, which is now mating by striking when the screen is already been expanded. And that's Histaklut Bet, the second observation. And we'll, of course, talk about these in later sessions as well.
What triggers the growth of the vessel in the face? Is it just a happenstance since there is a coarseness?
So when you activate the coarseness, so for example, what we're going to be dealing with here at the end is basically coarseness of phase 4. So when you activate, it's like power, it's like in, all these, Star Trek movies where, when you activate your shield, it like powers up, right? So you know what the full amount you want to reach, but even though you want that full amount, it powers up gradually. So that power up gradually is the vessel sort of going on. It's like crown, wisdom, understanding, beauty, kingdom, full power.
Thank you.
Expression. And when the fourth vessel grows in the face, the vessel of beauty, the light of expression enters the face. At that time, the light of relaxation descends from the vessel of understanding to the vessel of beauty, the light of modulation to the vessel of understanding, the light of protection to the vessel of wisdom, and the light of expression to the vessel of crown. So now we've got 4 vessels, right? We've got crown, wisdom, understanding, beauty. When beauty enters the face, then a new light of chaya expression enters at the top. So if I go bottom up, so in beauty now we've got nefesh, relaxation, right? So it's nefesh to nefesh, relaxation of relaxation. In bina, we now have ruach to nefesh, which is modulation of relaxation. And we also have nefesh to ruach, which means relaxation of modulation. And in the vessel of wisdom, of chokhmah, we now have neshama de nefesh, protection of relaxation. We have ruach de ruach, modulation of modulation. We have nefesh de neshama, relaxation of protection. And in the vessel of crown, we now have 4 lights. We have chaya de nefesh, so we've got expression of relaxation. We've got neshama de ruach, which is protection of modulation. We've got ruach de neshama, which is modulation of protection. And finally, nefesh de chaya, which is relaxation of expression. And you can see already some like inverse, like in the vessel of Chokhmah, of wisdom, notice how the highest light in Chokhmah is nefesh of neshama, which is relaxation or protection. And then the lowest light in it is the opposite. It's protection of relaxation, which is neshama de nefesh. Let's move on. Singularity.
Singularity, Baha Salam. And when a fifth Kli vessel grows in the Parsuf face, the Kli vessel of Malhut, kingdom, the light of Yehida, singularity enters it. At that time, all the lights enter their respective Kalim vessels. The light of Nefesh, relaxation, descends from the Kli vessel of Tiferet, beauty, to the Kli vessel of Malhut, kingdom. The light of Ruach, modulation, to the Kli vessel of Tiferet, beauty. The light of Neshama, protection, to the Kli vessel of Bina, understanding. The light of Haya, expression, to the Kli vessel of Hakma, wisdom. And the light of Yehida, singularity, to the Kli vessel of Keter, crown. Explanation. And when a fifth vessel grows in the face, the vessel of kingdom, the light of singularity enters it. At that time, all the lights enter their respective vessels. The light of relaxation descends from the vessel of beauty to the vessel of kingdom. The light of modulation to the vessel of beauty. The light of protection to the vessel of understanding. The light of expression to the vessel of wisdom. And the light of singularity to the vessel of crown.
Singularity. Explanation. When a fifth vessel grows in the face, the vessel of kingdom, the light of singularity, enters it. At that time, all the lights enter their respective vessels. The light of relaxation descends from the vessel of beauty to the vessel of kingdom. The light of modulation to the vessel of beauty. The light of protection to the vessel of understanding. The light of expression to the vessel of wisdom. And the light of singularity to the vessel of crown. Right, so now all the lights match up to their vessels. So if we go from bottom up, in the vessel of Malchut, kingdom, we only have nefesh to nefesh, relaxation of relaxation. In the vessel of Tiferet, which is beauty, we have ruach to nefesh, which is modulation of relaxation. And we have nefesh to ruach, which is relaxation of modulation. In the vessel of Bina, understanding, we have neshama to nefesh, which is protection of relaxation. We have ruach to ruach, which is modulation of modulation. And we have nefesh to neshama, which is relaxation of protection. In the vessel of chokhmah, wisdom, we have chaya to nefesh, expression of relaxation. We have neshama to ruach, which is protection of modulation. We have ruach to neshama, which is modulation of protection. And we have nefesh to chaya, which is relaxation of expression. And then finally, in Keter crown, we have singularity of relaxation, which is Yechida to Nefesh. We have expression of modulation, which is Chaya to Ruach. We have protection of protection, which is Neshama to Neshama. We have modulation of expression, which is Ruach de Chaya. And finally, we have relaxation of singularity, which is Nefesh de Yechida.
So all this mingling and mixing is basically changing the attributes of the light in each phase?
Applying the light to each of the vessels, applying the lights to each of the...
It's applying the light.
Yes, applying the light, applying the sensations to each of the phases. So when we, for example, we talked about this before in the vessels. So when we say Keter crown, we're talking either about the goal or we're talking about the still vegetative and animal. When we're talking about Chokhmah, wisdom, we're normally talking about humanity or a relationship to humanity. When we talk about Bina, understanding, we're talking about a relationship to the spiritual society. When we're talking about Tiferet beauty, we're talking about our relation to the group of cleaning concepts. And when we're talking about Malchut Kingdom, we're talking about our relationship with our individual that's working with us individually. Not just cleaning concepts, but finding the application of those concepts in our lives.
I have now questions now in the crowned vessel, like in the preparation, let's say. What happened when you? What sort of feeling, if we could say, the vessel have when you only have the nefesh light, and then you have the 2 lights and 3 lights and so on? How does it affect the perception of the fields, vegetative and animal?
So, for example, when we talk about relaxation, we said it's about separation from the situation. When we're talking about modulation, it's where I'm in the situation, but like feeling the changes.
But it's only regarding the still vegetative and the animal?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Either about the still vegetative animal or about the goal.
Okay.
Inverse relationship.
Inverse relationship, Balaha Salam, item 25. Thus, as long as not all 5 Kalim vessels, Keter, Hakma, Bina, Heferet, Malhut, Crown, Wisdom, Understanding, Beauty, Kingdom, have grown in the Parsuf face, the lights are not in their designated places. Overall, they are inverse relation. In the absence of the Kli vessels of Malhut Kingdom, the light of Yehida, singularity, is absent. And when the 2 Kalim vessels, Teferet Malhut, Beauty and Kingdom, are missing, Yehida, singularity, and Haya, expression, are absent there, etc. This is so because in Kalim vessels, the higher ones merge first, and in the lights, the last ones are the first to enter. You will also find that each new light that re-enters dresses only in the Kli vessel of Keter Crown. This is so because the receiver must receive in its purest Kli vessel, the Kli vessel of Keter Crown. Explanation, item 25. Thus, as long as not all 5 vessels, Crown, Wisdom, Understanding, Beauty, and Kingdom, have grown in a face, the lights are not in their designated places. Moreover, they are in inverse relation. In the absence of the vessel of Kingdom, the light of singularity is absent. And when the 2 vessels, Beauty and Kingdom, are missing, singularity and expression are absent there, etc. This is so because in the vessels, the higher ones emerge first, and in the lights, the last ones are the first to enter. You will also find that each new light that re-enters dresses only in the vessel of Crown. This is so because the receiver must receive in its purest vessel, the vessel of Crown.
Inverse relationship. Explanation. Item 25. Thus, as long as not all 5 vessels, Crown, Wisdom, Understanding, Beauty, and Kingdom, have grown in the face, the lights are not in their designated places. Moreover, they are in inverse relation. In the absence of the vessel of Kingdom, the light of singularity is absent. And when the 2 vessels, Beauty and Kingdom, are missing, singularity and expression are absent there, etc. This is so because in the vessels, the higher ones emerge first. And in the lights, the last ones are the first to enter. You will also find that each new light that re-enters dresses only in the vessel of Crown. This is so because the receiver must receive in its purest vessel, the vessel of Crown. So what we have is, we have like a table where we have the degree of coarseness that we're dealing with and the lights. And the idea is that these lights will go into their respective vessels. So for example, if we go from the sort of the starting point is when I only have Keter, which is the root phase Crown of coarseness, then relaxation, which is Nefesh, goes into Keter Crown, which is preparation. If I now have coarseness of Chokhmah, phase 1 wisdom, then Nefesh relaxation goes into Chokhmah, which is wisdom, which is humanity, and Ruach, which is modulation, goes into Keter, crown, preparation. If I have 2 levels of coarseness, which is Bina, phase 2, understanding, now I have relaxation, Nefesh, goes into Bina, which is understanding the spiritual society. Ruach modulation is my relationship now to Chokhmah, wisdom, humanity. And Neshama protection is now my relationship to Keter, crown, preparation. If I've got 4 degrees of coarseness, so I've got Tiferet, which is phase 3, beauty. Then Nefesh relaxation goes into Tiferet, which is beauty, the group. Ruach modulation is in Bina, understanding spiritual society. Neshama protection is in the vessel of Chachma, wisdom, humanity. And Chaya expression goes into Keter, crown, preparation. And if I have all degrees of coarseness, so I have Malchut, which is phase 4, kingdom, then Nefesh relaxation goes into Malchut, which is kingdom, which is the individual phase. Ruach modulation is in Tiferet, beauty in the group. Neshama protection is in Bina, understanding spiritual society. Chaya expression is in Chokhmah, wisdom, and humanity. And finally, Yechidah, singularity, is in Keter, crown, preparation. So depending on your coarseness, you'll have different relationships to the different parts of your reality. So in the most strongest situation, when you have all the degrees, that's where towards your individual, if you're in relaxation, that is, you feel grounded. You feel like the individual is there to help you. You don't feel like you're being manipulated by the individual. You feel like the individual and you are on equal grounds. With the group, you feel modulation. That is, with the cleaning of concepts, and that's what we do in the group. You're feeling the modulation, you're feeling the changes, you're feeling, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, now I know that. You're feeling the modulation. You're allowing them to affect you, but only in order to clean the concepts. And you still have that kind of, you could say the combination of the relaxation and the modulation towards the group. Now with the spiritual society, which is normally what gives you dirty concepts, which are very important because if you don't have dirty concepts, you can't clean them in the group and you can't apply them to yourself with your individual. So the spiritual society is vital for getting dirty concepts. And by dirty concepts, it doesn't mean that the spiritual society is saying nonsense. What it means is the spiritual society is talking about concepts in a very abstract manner, and therefore you will understand them in their dirty implementation. And then you come to the group, and the group gives you more details. It's like, oh, you thought bestowals like this, it's actually like that. Oh, you thought love is like this, it's actually like that, and so forth. But if you don't get those dirty concepts, if you don't have things that you think you understand from the spiritual society, you can't clean them, then in the group, you have no vessel to actually use and apply it with. And then in that state, you also have higher expression. You have it towards humanity, which means you can manipulate them. What we mean by manipulate, it means that you can have effect on people. Because humanity is a lower degree than you, you can actually dominate the situation. We're talking about internal domination. That means that externally you'll be nice and everything's great and you're a good citizen. But internally, you can dominate the situation you're in and you can dominate people by sort of moving them to do what you want them to do. And they, on their end, won't feel any kind of force. They'll think like it was their idea. They wanted to do something. They wanted to help you. They wanted to do this and move there. So for their perspective, it's totally not against their will. They actually think it's what they wanted in the first place. But for the Kabbalist, who's on that degree where they're doing expression on their environment, they know how they had an active participation. They were conscious about it. So the idea is to remember that we're always affecting our environment. But the idea is that when you have expression, that's when you're conscious of it. So instead of just doing manipulation of your environment or people around you subconsciously, you're now doing it consciously. And then finally, towards the crown, which, this is going to be about the goal and also about, the still vegetative animate, you're just going to feel single. You're going to feel like the entire world is you. And everything you're looking at are parts of you, and you get to feel that in your consciousness. So it's true anyway in your subconscious. When we're talking about the lights, we're talking about conscious feelings of these states.
So we're going to be consciously aware of the sensations and what they pertain to.
Exactly. And of course, you might get the sensation, but not the details in that sensation. And then as you continue growing, you'll get more and more details of each of the sensations. And that's how you're able to break them up and understand what each one means. You could say it's like when you're eating food. The first time you taste something, it's a great sensation, but you don't have the details of it. And when you eat that same food again and again, then each time you actually get more degrees of, like, more, you become more sensitive to the details in that piece of food. So the same thing with the states. The more you experience these states, and the more they go through you, the more you get details and you understand the process and the flow of it, and you get into that vibe. And you understand, okay, this is what's going to come next. This is how I felt it before. I'm going to feel it a little deeper this time. And you just constantly evolve that way.
Sort of like you said earlier, layering on.
Exactly. And these states you will feel before I'd say like this, before the barrier, you feel these states in potential. After the barrier, you feel them in actuality. And after end of correction, that's where you sort of get to manage them. They're not being applied onto you. You can already decide to apply them onto yourself. So it's like from the barrier until end of correction, you're going through fixed states that you have no control over, and they just go through you, and you might be aware of them, but you have no control of them. And then after end of correction, that's where you actually have control of your states. And you can, if you know how to manage yourself correctly, you can actually decide, do you want the full coarseness activated, or do you want less of the coarseness activated, and so forth. You're not fixed to a predetermined path. Let's move on. Cascading lights.
Cascading lights. Al Hasalam writes, for this reason, upon reception of each new light, the lights that are already dressed in the Partsuf face must descend 1 degree from their place. For example, when the light of Ruach modulation enters, the light of Nefesh relaxation must descend from the Kli vessel of Keter crown to the Kli vessel of Chokmah wisdom to make room for the Kli vessel of Keter crown to receive the new light, Ruach modulation. Similarly, if the new light of Neshama, protection, Ruach, meditation too, must descend from the Kli vessel of Keter crown to the Kli vessel of Chokmah wisdom to clear its place in Keter crown for the new light, Neshama, protection. As a result, Nefesh relaxation, which has the Kli vessel of Chokmah wisdom, must descend to the Kli vessel of Bina, understanding, etc. All this is done to make room in the Kli vessel of Keter crown for the new light. Explanation. For this reason, upon reception of each new light, the lights that are already dressed in the face must descend 1 degree from their place. For example, when the light of modulation enters, the light of relaxation must descend from the vessel of crown to the vessel of wisdom to make room for in the vessel of crown to receive the new light, modulation. Similarly, if the new light is protection, modulation too must descend from the light of crown to the vessel of wisdom to clear its place in crown for the new light, protection. As a result, relaxation, which was in the vessel of wisdom, must descend to the vessel of understanding, etc. All this is done to make room in the vessel of crown for the new light.
Cascading lights. Explanation. For this reason, upon reception of each new light, the lights that are already dressed in the face must descend 1 degree from their place. Right? So when we have the vessel of Keter, which is crown, the light of Nefesh relaxation is attracted into it. For example, when the light of modulation enters, the light of relaxation must descend from the vessel of crown to the vessel of wisdom to make room in the vessel of crown to receive the new light, modulation. So now you can see how nefesh relaxation descends now into chokhmah, into wisdom. And then the new light of ruach, modulation, enters the vessel of keter, which is crown. Similarly, if the new light is protection, modulation too must descend from the vessel of crown to the vessel of wisdom to clear its place in crown for the new light, protection. As a result, relaxation, which was in the vessel of wisdom, must descend to the vessel of understanding, etc. All this is done to make room in the vessel of crown for the new light. So we can see how nefesh relaxation descends from the vessel of chokhmah, wisdom, into the vessel of bina, understanding. And the light of ruach, modulation, descends from the vessel of keter, crown, into the vessel of chokhmah, wisdom. And then the new light of neshama, protection, enters the vessel of keter, crown. Think of it like a syringe. When you're pulling the syringe, right, you're pulling fluids into the syringe. So think of the pull of the, of the handle of the syringe as the coarseness. And as you're pulling the coarseness, you're pulling in new liquid, and the previous liquid moves down to go deeper into the syringe. Let's move on. Vessels versus lights.
Vessels versus light, Baal HaSulam. Keep this rule in mind and you will always be able to discern in each issue if it is referring to the kalim, vessels, or to the lights. Then you will not be confused because there is always an inverse relation between them. Thus, we have thoroughly clarified the matter of the 5 discernments in the Masach screen and how. Through them, the levels change one below the other. Explanation. Keep this rule in mind and you will always be able to discern in each issue if it is referring to the vessels or to the lights. Then you will not be confused because there is always an inverse relation between them. Thus, we have thoroughly clarified the matter of the 5 discernments in the screen and how, through them, the levels change one below the other.
Vessels versus lights. Explanation. Keep this rule in mind, and you will always be able to discern in each issue if it is referring to the vessels or to the lights. Then you will not be confused, because there is always an inverse relation between them. Thus we have thoroughly clarified the matter of the 5 discernments in the screen. Now through them, the levels change one below the other. So in the vessels, right, so we go Keter, crown, preparation, Chokhmah, wisdom, humanity, Bina, understanding, spiritual society, Tiferet, beauty, group, and Malchut, kingdom, individual. And these are normally abbreviated as Kachab, Tum. In the lights, we have Nefesh, which is relaxation, Ruach, modulation, Neshama, protection, Chaya, expression, and Yechida, singularity, and these are normally abbreviated as Naran Chai. So you can see how the vessels go from the pure to the coarsest. In the lights, we go from the coarsest to the pure. And I think we'll stop here and enter the after party.